UW-Madison doctors call it a significant milestone in Alzheimer's research as the university will lead a nationwide study on the disease. 23 News reporter Anthony Ferretti talks with the doctor leading the study about what he hopes to accomplish over the next 5 years.
What we're trying to do is detect this disease as early as we can.
UW-Madison will lead a nationwide study that will advance clinical care for Alzheimer's and local dementia-related diseases thanks to a $150 million grant from the National Institutes of Health.
Part of the success of what we hope to accomplish is to identify the right people for the right treatment at the right time of life.
The study will use brain scans and blood samples from roughly 2,000 people to look at two proteins which can indicate Alzheimer's disease. Dr. Johnson says this is difficult to detect without positron emission tomography or PET scans, which the study will use.
A major goal of our study is to transition our field from these very expensive PET studies to something that's very available in clinical practice.
Dr. Johnson says mixed dementia is also a focus. Someone with Alzheimer's could also show signs of other dementia-related diseases like vascular dementia, which weakens blood flow to the brain.
They can go undetected, but still they could be impacting a person's daily life and impact the clinical picture of their Alzheimer's disease.
The local chapter of the Alzheimer's Association is not involved with this specific study, but leaders there support this research.
This would improve our ability to detect and diagnose earlier, but most importantly, accurately.
Working for you in the State Line, Anthony Ferretti, 23 News.
Dr. Johnson says past breakthrough discoveries related to Alzheimer's at UW-Madison are the main reason the school was chosen to lead the initiative.